session on emotional wellness journey together. I'm very sorry, due to connectivity, we got disconnected and we had to restart our video today. So today in our first session, we're trying to understand what is the importance of emotions and how emotions play its vital role in our life. Let me just begin first straight away with one of my case studies. Sheetal, a young girl of about 27 years old, came to my clinic when she was suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. She had tremendous amount of loose motions, about 20 loose motions in a day. And this was the case which was normal. Whenever for any reason it so happened that Sheetal would have any food outside, maybe like pav bhaji or pani puri or something like that, her bowels would go even worse and she would land up having about 40 loose motions in a day. And this would mean that she would land up being in the hospital under saline and under medication. And this was a phenomena that was happening in Sheetal's life for about 5 to 7 years. And this all started when Sheetal was divorced from her marriage. Sheetal got married at a very young age. It was a love marriage, a first time, first sight fall in love. She was too docile at that time. She went into this wedding bond, and unfortunately, within 1.5 years, her parents had to literally bring her back home when she had lost more than 15 kgs and her body was absolutely battered because of the physical abuse that she was going through with her in laws. The mental abuse that she was going through was beyond words. And after that, Sheetal never ever spoke about this, but what really happened was that she landed up having a bad stomach. When her mother came to me for some different problems, she realized that I was asking her questions which were completely disconnected with her own presenting complaints of piles. I was more interested in her stresses and anxieties because very apparently her mom looked very stressed. After giving her medicines just for a week, her piles complaints completely stopped. And that's when her mother realized that something different was happening over here. I was focusing more on her emotional state than on her physical state. And that's when she requested, why don't you talk to Sheetal and help Sheetal out? I had suggested her mind-body healing sessions. These are sessions which actually help you to connect with yourself and access your emotions and help you to release the blocked and pent-up emotions that you're holding inside you for all these years. That's exactly what we did. The funniest part of this was that after 7 years, Sheetal's husband had moved on. He had got married again, and he had in fact had a child from his second wife. And unfortunately, Sheetal was still stuck up in this marriage. She was still longing for this man because she really loved him dearly. And even after going through such an abusive marriage, she somehow felt that one day maybe they could be together and her husband would understand what big mistake she had made. It was clearly a case of delusion and Sheetal needed help over here. That's exactly what we did, helping her to come out of this delusion that she had created for herself. It was one of the most surprising cases for me in my own clinic also at that time when this happened. It was at this time when I was also newly looking into emotional wellness, and I had tentatively suggested that this might take a couple of 3 to 5 sessions for us to help Sheetal come out. Sheetal really surprised me with her recovery. What really happened was that the first session that we did, where we really tapped into her pent-up emotions, her longing, her lost feeling, her feeling of being betrayed, her feeling of not giving enough justice, all that humiliation and indignation that she had gone through, the moment we were able to tap into those feelings and give a very channelized release to her emotions, her body completely started transforming. Believe me, Sheetal came back to the clinic exactly after a week for her second session. This girl tells me, Maushi, can you believe it? I just had Pani Puri yesterday. It was a shock for me, and for a second, I had a knot in my stomach, wondering what Sheetal would now say next. But surprisingly, she said, and you know what? Nothing really happened. In fact, the day you took my sessions and I went home at 8 o'clock, after that, I'm having two normal motions every day. My bowels are clearing properly. I'm not having any kind of loose motions at all. I'm eating better and I feel so much more well. And this, when I felt we hadn't even completed working with Sheetal and her emotions. So, just allowing the consciousness to tap into suppressed emotions and pent up emotions can be a profoundly healing experience for the consciousness. Very often, most of us are used to keeping our emotions, our traumas under the carpet. That is exactly what had happened with Sheetal. Even when she was brought back to her parents' house, the thought that the guilt that she had got into a marriage against her parents' wish and this marriage had ended on such a bad note had pushed Sheetal into her own shell. Even though her parents were very supportive, she never felt comfortable to come ahead and talk about her feelings to her parents, thinking that she might land up burdening them even more than before. She didn't want to be a burden on these people, and hence she completely kept pushing her emotions underneath. But let me tell you one thing, when you do something like this, it's not that only one part of your life or area of your life gets affected. What really happens is that that negativity, that suppression spreads into all the rest of the areas of your life. And that's exactly what was happening over here. She was falling out in relationships with her friends. Wherever she was working, she landed up having quarrels and fights. All the time, she kept feeling that people were not fair and a lot of injustice was being done to her. And every time she came up feeling more and more indignated, feeling more and more angry wherever she went. And this story would continue because deep down inside, these were her core feelings which she was carrying inside her for more than 7 years. So even if we feel we have moved on in life, if we do not address our emotions and if we do not release them in the right way, they continue to trouble us and they continue to affect us at the mental level as well as at the physical level. And that's something that we all need to understand. So here, definitely, there was irritable bowel syndrome where her body was suffering, and at the same time, her entire aura was filled with negativity. Wherever she went, she kind of continued to have negative experiences with people, feeling that life is completely unfair with her, causing her to become more and more bitter with life. And this continued till finally she decided to stop and work on herself. It was amazing the way we were able to achieve this kind of healing for her. And that's the kind of work which emotional wellness really is all about. Yes, sometimes if the traumas are very deep, you might need help of a professionally qualified therapist to handhold you and take you across. And sometimes it may be that you just need to stop, wait, allow your emotions to express, accept them the way they are, release them in the right way, and then finally come to terms with it and move on. But this needs to happen. Pushing your emotions under the carpet or closing them in the closet is not an answer. Though we might feel that we have moved on, really, our consciousness, our body, our psyche hasn't really moved on in the right sense. And that's exactly what I want to share when we talk about emotional journey. I would like all of us to do this emotional wellness journey together, where each one of us learns to tap into our emotions and our past issues. Believe me, whenever I work with people and I talk about past issues, especially men, they have a very common reaction. Why do you want to go into the past? Life is about future. Life is about moving ahead. What's the point of remembering past things and thinking about past and worrying about it? It's already gone. It's done. But I have only one simple question to such answers. If you're planning to run a marathon and you have a huge boulder attached to your legs with an iron chain, what's the speed at which you're going to run a marathon? That's exactly what happens in life. Yes, definitely, we all want to move ahead, we all want to go on, but at what pace, what speed? And moreover, what's the joy, what's the happiness that's involved into it? Somewhere, if we have our legs caught in the past, our movement ahead is also going to be painful. And that's exactly why emotional wellness is something that's very, very important. So, coming back to Sheetal, her first session itself gave us such amazing results that there was that we continued, but there were certain belief systems that needed to be released. The body had started to heal itself, but having had such a bitter experience in her first relationship, she was completely anti men. She felt that all men were not worth trusting. Very often, we women could come out with these kind of feelings, and exactly that's the feeling with which we would continue to live our life if such kind of traumas are a part of us. And that's the kind of reaction, if that's the energy with which we are moving around in the society, even if we want to have a healthier relationship with the next partner, it might become a big challenge for all of us. And that's exactly the reason why we need to work on clearing our energies and need to work on clearing the emotional baggages and loads that we are holding on to. We went on to working with Sheetal, allowing her to access her own negative emotions, allowing her to release these belief systems that had got created, which were mainly like men are not trustworthy, I could be cheated, it's not safe, I am not safe. And believe me, these are not words, these are not sentences. These are the belief systems that such kind of traumatic events create inside us. That's the energy with which we are moving around. It's as if there is a mobile antenna on top of our head radiating these energies out. If I am moving around with an energy that says, I am not safe, people can't be trusted, nothing good happens to me, what do you think am I going to attract in my life? That's exactly what's going to happen. The kind of people, the kind of situations, the kind of circumstances that I'm going to attract in my life are exactly going to be the same. They're going to reinforce the same experience for me time and again. And once this gets reinforced, it becomes a very strong belief system. ज्याला आपण काळ्या दगडावरची रेघ म्हणतो. की then it becomes my ultimate truth that life is not fair for me. It's not easy. It's difficult. I go on creating even tougher and difficult belief systems for me. And that's the reason why working on our emotional wellness becomes one of the most important aspect for us. Okay, so how do you do that? First and foremost, learn to settle down, learn to be watchful and mindful of yourself. Very often, when negative emotions come up, we try to distract them. We try to, that's good, that's nice, it's good not to stay in the negative energy, but what we really do is we start eating, we start watching movies, we might call up a friend, and that's really what we are doing, and we're trying to stay away from that negative energy. But that's as good as pushing it down. Just like what we said last time, just be mindful of it. Just sit with that feeling. Sit in absolute stillness and recognize and acknowledge that this is what I'm feeling right now in this moment. Believe me, if you sit with this emotion long enough, it will just dissipate itself. It will work itself out. That's where exactly the technique of meditation comes in way. That's where exactly talking about your emotions, counseling, or even writing down your emotions comes in its play. Very often we talk of techniques where we ask people to write a letter to the person who's offending them and write it in whatever way they find it right. So you might give say everything which you have never ever said, but that emptying out is what is important. And that's what helps us to release things inside. If that doesn't work, then as I said, accessing the subconscious and catching hold of that trauma is important, is necessary. Because whenever we get traumatized, our body tends to hold the trauma in some parts or some organs and converts them into cellular memories. It's as if that part is blocked now. Until somebody goes and unlocks it and releases it, it wouldn't get released. And one of the most simple techniques which we therapists use, and most of you all must have um, heard about, is called as emotional freedom technique. There are certain points which we just simply tap out and we release the entire energy that is there holding inside our body. We will do one of our sessions on emotional freedom technique where I'll teach you how emotional freedom technique is done by simply tapping on our points and releasing the energy that is there. Today, it was an introduction mainly to help you understand what is emotional wellness and how will our journey take place. Coming now to the current times that we are here, there was something that I had put up on my Facebook account today. There was a very simple question that I asked, that what would you do if you were allowed to go out right now? And do you know what most of the answers were? Most of the answers were that I would go out and I would help the needy. I would go out and I would reach out to people who are in need. This entire feeling of reaching out, going out, and giving something to someone creates a tremendous amount of positivity inside us, creates a tremendous shift in our energy levels, creates a tremendous shift in our hormonal level. And that is why it's always said that if you are sad, look out for people who are sadder than you. Look out for people who are in need more than you and reach out for them. I would be really glad if this feeling that we have developed today in these past few days of being aware of the needs of people around us continues and we really go ahead and do what we feel and does not remain just so long as we are inside our house. It will not just help the community, it will completely shift the consciousness of the entire earth. Today, most of us are becoming aware of how fortunate we are, what are the good things that we are enjoying, the fact that we have a safe home, and the fact that we have things and groceries and people around us. And now we are desperately becoming aware of people who are in need, and we would love to go out and help them. Hold on to that energy. Don't let that energy go. Hold on to that thought. Even now, when you're in your house, you can continue doing whatever you can in little bits to whoever you can reach out to. It could be your mates, it could be your servants, it could be someone, some organization where you could reach out in the form of financial help or in form of foods. In fact, yesterday, the Swatch worker who picks up our garbage came to my clinic and he said, "Ma'am, we need some food. There is no money to buy food at all. And is there any way that you can arrange food?" Believe me, I really felt privileged at that time that I was given this opportunity to reach out to him. And sometimes being able to reach out to people and people coming and asking you for help itself can be a huge privilege for us to be in that place where we can help people. So, for today's session, let us end with a message of gratitude. Just like always, have you heard about this story? This person in Italy, this old man who was in hospital. I don't know whether it's true, but this has been circulating on WhatsApp very, very often, and most of you all must have read it. He was in hospital, he was hospitalized, and he was on ventilator, and the doctors were able to save him. He was able to come out of his problem. And when he was discharged, the doctors asked him to pay only for 1 day's ventilator charges. The rest of the charges the hospital was going to take care of. And that was a time when it brought tears into the man's eye. He really started crying. The doctors thought maybe he was not able to afford it, and they said, "It's okay, it's fine, you need not pay, it's all right, you go, it's fine." And he said, "No, no, that's not a problem, I can definitely pay." But what I realized today was that all this air that was available for me to breathe for the last 70 years of my life, I was never even aware of it, and I wasn't even grateful for it. And today, for 1 day of ventilator, I have to pay 5,000 euros. So that's the reason where we all need to be mindful about what this beautiful earth has been giving us for all these years. And now the earth has decided to rejuvenate itself, re energize itself, and it's just asking us to stay home. Nature is amazing. Nature can recover amazingly well and fast. Most of you all are, I think, experiencing this as you look out. The rate at which the nature is rejuvenating and recovering itself. It needs maybe a little more time, a little more space. I'm sure we can do that much for our own home, for our own Mother Nature. So stay home, stay safe, till we meet next Sunday on Soulful Sundays. Namaste.